Everything you've been taught about reality is incomplete or worse, wrong. You were handed a world of surfaces and taught to stop questioning once you could label them. Solid, separate, objective. Those are the illusions. From the moment you learned to name the world, you were trained to see only its mask. But what if that mask wasn't real? What if what you call life is only the densest layer of something far more infinite, something your senses were never meant to perceive? What if existence itself is a riddle wrapped in an enigma, waiting for you to unravel it? There is an older knowledge hidden in plain sight, passed through whispers, symbols, and ancient texts. The Kybalion is one of those texts, a key, not a conclusion. It speaks not to the mind you've been trained with, but to the one you forgot you had. And once you open this door, there's no going back. Because behind everything you thought was reality is something far more alive. Discovering this truth is like awakening from a lifelong slumber. They told you the universe was made of matter, that it was a cold, mechanical accident, no purpose, no intelligence, just atoms colliding in a void. And you believed them because everyone else did. But what if the foundation of reality isn't matter at all? What if the world around you is not something out there, but a reflection of something in here? According to the Kybalion, everything you see, feel, and experience is not physical first, it's mental. This is the first principle of hermetic philosophy. All is mind. The universe is not a machine, it is a living thought, a projection from a greater consciousness shaped by intention, vibrating with meaning. You are not walking through a world that exists independently of you. You are inside a field of thought. The world is happening in your awareness, not outside of it. Embrace this notion and prepare to witness a profound shift in your perception. You've felt this before, haven't you? In those moments when your thoughts seem to ripple outward and shape your day, when synchronicities fell into place not by luck but by unseen logic, when people mirrored your mood, or when what you feared most arrived with perfect timing. These weren't coincidences, these were clues. You are not a spectator in this universe, you are a participant in its design. Tune into the subtle harmonies of existence and you'll find yourself dancing in rhythm with the cosmos. Modern science is beginning to echo these ancient truths. Quantum mechanics suggests that the observer influences the observed, that subatomic particles behave differently depending on whether someone is watching, that reality shifts under the gaze of consciousness. The Kybalion said it long before particle accelerators did. As above, so below, as within, so without. Unlock the secrets held within this cosmic mirror and you'll gain the power to shape your destiny. The mind is not in the universe is in the mind, but not just yours. The hermeticists speak of the universal mind, the infinite intelligence that holds all existence. Everything that is, was, or will be exists within this mental field. From stars and galaxies to memories and emotions, nothing exists outside of mind. The same mind that conceived the laws of physics also conceived you. You are not separate from it. You are an extension of it, a spark in the infinite flame, a thought within a thought. Recognize this interconnectedness and you'll realize that you are an integral part of the grand cosmic symphony. And here's where it begins to change everything. Because if the universe is mental, then reality is not fixed. It is fluid, flexible, and influenced by thought. What you think, what you expect, what you believe, these are not passive. They are generative. You've been taught to think of thoughts as private, inert, invisible. But they are not. They are creative forces. Every emotion sends out a signal. Every belief programs the field. You're not just thinking, you're broadcasting, you're sculpting. Become the architect of your reality by consciously shaping your thoughts and beliefs. That's why the world can feel so distorted when your mind is cluttered. Why fear brings more fear. Why unresolved pain repeats itself. Because what you focus on, you energize. What you resist, you lock in place. But what you bring into awareness without judgment, without fear, you begin to dissolve. You begin to reshape. And as your inner landscape shifts, the outer one follows, not immediately, not always obviously, but unmistakably over time. Reality bends gently toward your vibration. Embrace the power of self-awareness and watch as the universe responds to your evolving consciousness. Some truths are too disruptive to say openly here. The principle of mentalism doesn't just teach that the world is mind. It teaches that your mind is part of the world, that your thoughts matter, literally. That behind all form is thought, And behind all thought is consciousness. The question is no longer, is this real? The question is, what am I creating with my attention? Because every second your mind is shaping the mirror around you. And once you see that, once you really see it, there's no one left to blame and nothing left to fear. You've been taught that reality is singular, that what you can touch, measure, and define is all that truly exists. But what if the physical world is just one layer of a much larger structure? What if everything you know is just the tip of something vast and multidimensional, an iceberg of consciousness hidden beneath the waters of perception? According to the Kybalion, existence is not a flat landscape but a spectrum of planes. These are not physical locations but different levels of vibration, of thought, of energy, of being. Ascend the ladder of consciousness, and you'll gain access to realms beyond your wildest imagination. At the base is the physical plane, where matter is dense and form is solid. This is the world of bodies, objects, clocks, and currency. It's the realm your five senses anchor you to, the realm we've been conditioned to believe is all there is. But it is not. It is only the beginning. Above the physical lies the mental plane, a realm shaped not by atoms but by thought itself. Here reality is fluid, perception becomes creation, time loses its grip. This is the level of ideas, imagination, emotion, archetype. Every concept you've ever held, love, fear, freedom, identity, was born here before taking form in your world. Expand your mental horizons, and you'll discover the infinite potential that lies within your own mind. And above the mental plane lies the spiritual plane, a realm beyond thought where essence is pure and indivisible. This is the domain of source, the spark before the flame, the formless behind the formed. Connect with your spiritual essence, and you'll tap into the wellspring of infinite wisdom and unconditional love. You move through these planes more often than you realize. When you dream, you rise above the physical. When you create, you draw from the mental. When you experience awe, stillness, or a moment of deep intuitive knowing, you brush against the spiritual. These aren't fantasies, these are shifts in frequency. Your consciousness is not trapped in your body, it only believes it is. Free your mind from its self-imposed limitations, and you'll soar beyond the confines of the material world. The hermeticists understood that the planes are not separate, but nested, like layers of a hologram. The higher governs the lower. What begins in the spiritual filters into the mental, then crystallizes in the physical. This is why inner change always precedes outer transformation. Trying to fix life from the outside in is like repainting a mirror to change your reflection. Real change begins above, at the level of vibration, thought, and intention. This is also why healing happens in the unseen. The body may carry the symptom, but the root is almost always above it, in belief, trauma, karmic memory, or ancestral echo. You've been taught to treat the surface, but true power lies in moving through the planes, in learning to operate not just as a body, but as a being of layered consciousness. Embrace the holistic nature of existence and you'll unlock the secrets to true and lasting healing. Understanding the planes doesn't require belief, it requires observation. Think of the last time you had a gut feeling you ignored. It came from a higher plane and you dismissed it because it had no proof. But proof exists only at the physical level. Wisdom lives higher. Think of inspiration. You don't generate it, you receive it. It descends from the mental and spiritual down into your awareness and finally into form through action. This is creation as it truly works, top down, not bottom up. The tragedy is that most people never realize this. They live entirely within the physical, reacting to effects and never addressing causes. They measure their lives in materials, compare their worth in things, and chase certainty where only mystery exists. They treat the body while starving the soul. They don't know how to shift frequency, so they stay stuck in cycles that repeat because the signal never changes. But you don't have to, because now you see what they never showed you. You are not limited to this plane. You are not the mask you wear or the body you inhabit. You are a multi-dimensional being moving through levels of reality in every breath, every thought, every dream. And when you begin to consciously engage with the higher planes, life no longer feels random. It begins to feel orchestrated, alive, synced. And suddenly what once felt like chaos starts to look a lot more like code, waiting for you to reprogram it from above. decode the secrets of the universe, and rewrite your destiny in accordance with your highest aspirations. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. That's not poetic metaphor. It's one of the core laws of hermeticism. And it's also one of the foundational truths of modern physics. Every atom, every cell, every thought, every feeling, it's all vibrating constantly. Even when you feel still, you're not. You're humming with unseen motion, with frequency, with invisible rhythm. The universe isn't static, it's a symphony. And whether you realize it or not, you're already playing an instrument in it. Learn to harmonize with the cosmic vibration, and you'll create a life of beauty, joy, and abundance. You felt it. You've walked into a room and felt the energy shift. No one had to say anything, you just knew. You've spoken to someone whose presence felt heavy, anxious, or chaotic, and then others who lifted you with nothing more than their silence. That's vibration. It isn't mystical fluff. It's an energetic fact. The reason you feel off around certain people or can't focus in certain environments isn't just emotional, it's vibrational. Your body, your mind, your nervous system, all of it responds to frequency. Some align you, others disorient you. Become attuned to the subtle energies that surround you, and you'll navigate the world with greater ease and clarity. The Kybalion teaches that everything is in motion, and motion means frequency. This isn't just true for objects, it's true for states of being. Joy has a frequency, so does shame, love, clarity, resentment, peace. These aren't just moods, they're measurable frequencies in the subtle field of your being. And the most important part? You're not stuck at one setting. Your vibration isn't a fixed trait, it's a tune, one you can learn to adjust. Master the art of vibrational alignment, and you'll unlock the secrets to lasting happiness and fulfillment. Think about how your thoughts and emotions ripple into your physical experience. When you're anxious, your breath shortens, your body tenses, your perception narrows. That's not just a mood, it's a vibrational contraction. On the flip side, when you're calm or inspired, your body opens, you breathe deeper, your ideas flow. That's expansion. The principle of vibration reveals that you are at all times broadcasting your state, not in words, but in signal. And reality responds to that signal. The reason this principle is so suppressed is because it puts power back where the system doesn't want it. Within you. If you can shift your vibration, you can shift your experience. That doesn't mean bypassing reality or faking positivity. It means consciously choosing to direct your energy instead of letting it default to whatever external chaos is loudest. You're not at the mercy of the world's noise unless you forget you have a dial of your own. Reclaim your vibrational sovereignty and become the master of your own destiny. Vibration is also how creation happens. The hermetic text suggests that what we think of as matter is simply energy vibrating at a low enough rate to become visible. That means the difference between what's seen and unseen, what's manifested and what's not, is simply a matter of frequency bandwidth. And just like a radio only picks up the station it's tuned to, your mind can only perceive what matches your current vibration. Raise it, and the world around you shifts to match, not metaphorically, literally. Tune into the frequency of your desires and watch as they materialize into reality. This is why transformation is often subtle before it's visible. You start by shifting the internal tone, calming the mental noise, clearing old emotional patterns, elevating your thoughts. At first it seems like nothing is happening, but the frequency has already changed. And over time, the people around you shift. Opportunities change. The things that used to drain you fall away, new ones appear. Because the universe is not responding to your desires, it's responding to your signal. So if you feel stuck, ask yourself, what frequency am I living on? What am I vibrating into the field around me? You don't need to figure out every detail of what you want. You just need to become the version of you that would already have it. That version vibrates differently. They carry less fear, more trust, less proving, more being. And that vibration isn't achieved by force. It's remembered when you stop clinging to what isn't you. Embrace your authentic self and watch as the universe conspires to support your dreams. Understanding this principle doesn't require belief, it requires observation. Start watching how people's states shift their outcomes. Start noticing how your inner world maps to the outer one. You'll begin to see it everywhere. The silent music beneath events, the pattern behind the randomness. And in time, you'll no longer ask, why is this happening to me? You'll begin to ask, what frequency brought this into being? And the moment you do that, you've already started tuning into a different station. You were taught to see the world in opposites, good and bad, light and dark, success and failure, right and wrong. You were conditioned to pick a side, to fight for one and fear the other. But what if the truth is that they're not enemies? They're twins, not different in kind but in degree. What if every so-called opposite is really just a sliding scale of the same energy seen from a different point on the spectrum? This is the hermetic principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. What we call cold and hot are both temperature. What we call love and hate are both intense focus of emotional energy. What we call life and death are both conditions of existence, transitions, not absolutes. Transcend the illusion of duality, and you'll discover the interconnectedness of all things. The moment you see this, you begin to break the illusion that reality is made of harsh binaries. You start to realize that contradiction is not conflict, it's continuity. You've been trained to believe in absolutes because absolutes are easy to control. When you fear darkness, you can be sold light. When you fear failure, you can be manipulated with promises of success. But polarity exposes the trap. You are not choosing between opposites, you are choosing your place on a spectrum. This gives you power because it means you are never stuck. You can transmute one state into another. You can take fear and raise its vibration toward courage. You can take anger and refine it into clarity. You can take apathy and alchemize it into purpose. The energy never disappears, it shifts. This is the essence of emotional mastery, not suppression, but transmutation. Not denying what you feel, but recognizing its frequency and guiding it toward a higher octave. Become the alchemist of your emotions and transform lead into gold. The Kybalion teaches that this is the art of the mental alchemist. To take a negative state and raise it by degrees until what once controlled you becomes fuel. And the more you practice this, the less reactive you become. You no longer get pulled between extremes because you know they're made of the same thread. You begin to rise above polarity, not by escaping it, but by understanding it. Think of your daily life. You chase pleasure and avoid pain, thinking they're different. But the more you cling to one, the more you create fear of the other. It's a pendulum. Swing too far toward craving and you swing back into loss. Swing too far into control and you swing back into chaos. True power comes from finding stillness at the center, the neutral point where you're not controlled by reaction but guided by awareness. Find your center and you'll navigate the storms of life with unwavering grace and equanimity. This doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you start choosing. Instead of being trapped in emotional weather, you become the one steering the wind. When you get angry, you don't act from it. You observe where it's pointing. When you feel envy, you don't shame yourself. You ask what it's revealing about your own unclaimed desires. Every negative state holds a message, and polarity teaches you to read the energy, not judge the label. Decipher the hidden messages within your emotions, and you'll unlock the keys to your personal growth and evolution. Polarity also destroys the myth of division. That person you hate, they're holding a part of you you haven't made peace with yet. That ideology you resisted exists to teach you something about your own alignment. This doesn't mean agreeing with everything. It means understanding the purpose of contrast. Without it, there's no learning, no growth, no motion. Without cold, how would you know warmth? Without doubt, how would you recognize truth? Embrace the transformative power of contrast and you'll find wisdom in every experience. The system you live in benefits from your obsession with extremes, political polarization, moral absolutism, us versus them. It keeps you spinning in conflict, fighting shadows on a wall. But polarity shows you the wall is the same material as the shadow. What you hate is what you fear. What you fear is what you haven't integrated. And once you do, the game changes. You begin to walk with calm through storms. You begin to feel peace in places that used to provoke panic. You start to become untouchable. Not because nothing touches you, but because you no longer swing wildly between poles. You know where you are, you know how to shift. And that's what they don't want you to learn. Because a person who understands polarity doesn't react, they respond. And that kind of person can't be controlled. Break free from the chains of reactivity and become the master of your own destiny. You were born into a world obsessed with surfaces. Appearances became truth. Ownership became identity. Matter became God. From the moment you could walk, you were praised for tangible achievements, grades, trophies, money, beauty. Everything invisible was dismissed. Feelings were too much. Intuition was not real. And inner knowing was just your imagination. You were trained to trust what could be touched and fear what couldn't. But here's the truth. What you can't see is what actually controls what you can. Materialism is the dominant religion of this age. It pretends to be neutral, scientific, and rational, but it's no less dogmatic than any church. It tells you that consciousness is a side effect of matter, that your thoughts are meaningless electrical blips, that love is chemical, that ore is coincidence, that the mystery of your existence is nothing but meat and math. It's a small, brittle story, and it keeps you small because it denies the part of you that can't be measured. Reject the limiting dogma of materialism and embrace the infinite potential of your consciousness. The Kybalion doesn't just challenge this narrative, it flips it. It teaches that the material world is not the origin of reality, it's the last step. Matter is not the cause, it's the consequence. Everything begins in mind, descends into energy, and eventually slows into form. By the time something shows up in the physical world, it's already been shaped by the planes above it. But society doesn't want you to look up. It wants you trapped at the bottom of the ladder, mistaking shadows for substance. This is why people feel so numb. Even when they have everything, the house, the car, the title, the clothes, they touched all the right milestones but feel nothing underneath. Because material success without inner awareness is just decoration on an empty room. You can't fill a soul with things. But they never taught you that, they just taught you to chase. Every advertisement whispers the same lie. This will make you feel real. The right phone, the right diet, the right status symbol, but you never arrive, do you? Because the finish line keeps moving. That's not an accident. It's the design. A system built on material perception will always keep you looking outward. Because if you looked inward and actually saw the power of your own mind, the whole thing would collapse. Look beyond the illusion of material satisfaction and discover the true source of happiness within yourself. Look around. We're drowning in data but starving for wisdom, surrounded by products but empty of purpose, addicted to visibility but terrified of introspection. We don't reflect, we perform. We don't feel, we scroll. And we wonder why the world feels increasingly hollow. The more we worship matter, the more we disconnect from meaning. The more we reduce reality to objects, the more we reduce ourselves to commodities. But once you understand the trap, you can exit it. The shift begins with awareness, seeing that the physical world is real but not final. It's a mirror, not the source, a result, not a cause. What's real is the energy behind the form, the emotion behind the action, the intention behind the word. That's where the true levers of reality live. And those levers are in your hands if you're willing to stop gripping the illusion. Start noticing how matter responds to meaning. Plants grow faster when spoken to with care. Water molecules restructure under loving words. Your own body heals differently depending on your thoughts. This isn't fringe. This is reality seen without the blinders. You're not just moving through a material world. You're projecting into it, engaging with it, encoding it. Whether you know it or not, you are shaping what you experience based on what you believe to be true. Become a conscious co-creator of your reality by aligning your beliefs with your highest aspirations. So if life feels heavy, if you feel stuck, start asking, what have I been told to value? What have I made more real than my own awareness? Because the more you invest your energy in what can be taken from you, the more powerless you'll feel. But when you begin to reclaim the unseen, your thoughts, your frequency, your inner knowing, you reclaim the steering wheel. The world you see is only a sliver of what's here. And what matters most is not what you can hold in your hand, but what you can hold in your awareness. The system taught you to worship the material. The Kybalion reminds you, you are the unseen behind the scene. Embrace your true power as a conscious creator and manifest a life of purpose, joy, and abundance. Most people live as if life is happening to them, as if they're at the mercy of random events, unfair systems, and uncontrollable outcomes. They work, they struggle, they wait, and when things fall apart, they blame circumstance, luck, or someone else's power. But what if that entire worldview is backwards? What if the world doesn't cause your state, but your state shapes the world? The Kybalion teaches that consciousness precedes form, that the universe doesn't move randomly. It reflects. Every thought, belief, and emotional frequency you carry acts like a transmitter, constantly broadcasting into the field of reality. And that field, in turn, responds not to what you want, but to what you are. The world outside you is not just a mirror, It's a loop. It takes in what you emit and sends it back in form, time, circumstance, and experience. This isn't just a spiritual metaphor, it's echoed in modern science. In quantum physics, the observer effect reveals that simply observing a particle can alter its behavior. The act of attention changes reality. This isn't about bending spoons or manifesting luxury cars with wishful thinking. It's about understanding that attention is power. Focus is power. Belief is architecture. Your inner state is not invisible, it's instructive. And the moment you begin to observe with intention, the feedback loop shifts. Think about what you experience daily, the patterns that keep repeating, the energy you attract, the things you say you don't want but keep encountering anyway. These aren't punishments, they're information. They reveal where your consciousness is stuck, where you've been unconsciously creating from fear, from lack, from inherited belief. The world isn't mocking you. It's showing you your own vibration in real time, not because it wants to trap you, but because it wants you to wake up. When you change the signal, the feedback changes. But you can't fake it. You can't put on a happy face and expect reality to shift. The field responds to what's real beneath the surface, not the mask, but the energy underneath it. So the work is not performance, it's integration. It's honesty. It's examining the places in your mind where you've been planting seeds of doubt, scarcity, or resentment and choosing to replace them with truth. Embrace authenticity and watch as your reality transforms in alignment with your true self. Conscious creation doesn't mean controlling every outcome. It means aligning your vibration with the state of being you wish to live in. Want peace? Then stop worshiping chaos. Want abundance? Then stop feeding lack. Want truth? Then stop clinging to the safety of the lie. You don't wait for the external to change. You become the change internally, and the external will have no choice but to reflect it eventually, inevitably, precisely. Embody the qualities you desire and watch as your reality reflects your inner transformation. This is why the Kybalion places so much emphasis on mental discipline, not as suppression, but as stewardship. Your mind is a garden, thoughts are seeds, emotion is water, focus is sunlight. If you don't choose what grows, something else will. Old programming, collective fear, cultural conditioning, and then you'll look at the weeds and think life gave them to you. It didn't. They grew where you weren't looking. Cultivate your mind with intention and create a garden of beauty, abundance, and joy. This truth is not always easy to swallow because it strips away blame. It means taking full ownership, not just of your reactions, but of your creations. But within that responsibility is real power, because if you're the cause, then you're not a victim. You're a builder, a sculptor, a frequency that shapes matter. And the more consciously you hold that truth, the more precise your life becomes. Everything begins with mind. What you expect, you invite. What you fear, you feed. What you honor expands. You are the cause and O in the egoic sense of control, but in the deeper sense of alignment. Life doesn't bend to force, it bends to frequency. And when your inner state reflects clarity, presence, and coherence, reality shifts quietly, powerfully, irreversibly. Align your inner world with the universal laws and watch as your life unfolds with effortless grace. Everything in this universe, every object, every thought, every flicker of life emerges from one infinite field of consciousness. This isn't poetic mysticism. It's the foundation of hermetic thought. The Kybalion calls it the universal mind, not as metaphor, but as fact. It is not a god in the sky. It is the sky, the ground, the stars, the breath in your lungs, and the idea in your mind. It is the field in which everything arises. And you are not separate from it. You are made of it. You've been taught to see yourself as a fragment, a tiny, isolated self moving through a universe of things, alone, small, fragile. But this is the greatest illusion of all, the belief that you are a disconnected piece of reality. The Kybalion reveals that there is only one thing here. One mind dreaming infinite forms. That flower, that storm, that child's laughter, that flash of déjà vu's, all the universal mind wearing different masks. And so are you. Realize your inherent connection to the infinite and dissolve the illusion of separation. This isn't about ego inflation. You're not being told you're the center of the universe. You're being told something far more humbling. That there is no center, no edge, no boundary between you and the whole. The same intelligence that organizes galaxies also orchestrates your heartbeat. The same power that births stars also carries your thoughts. When you truly see this, not just with intellect, but with knowing, something ancient awakens inside you. You begin to remember who you are, not a name, not a role, but an emanation of something vast, eternal, and intimately present. You've touched this before, in moments of silence, in states of awe, in dreams that felt more real than waking, in the split second after loss when everything stands still, that sense of being held by something greater that wasn't imagination. That was you dipping below the noise back into the source. The universal mind is not distant. It is not waiting for you. It is here right now in everything. But you've been trained to ignore it, to filter your experience through distraction, fear, and fragmented logic. You were told to look outward for validation, to measure your worth through comparison, and to treat your intuition like a liability. But intuition is the language of the universal mind. When you ignore it, you cut off the guidance that was built into your design. This mind doesn't speak in words, it speaks in patterns, in symbols, in synchronicities. It nudges, it echoes, it orchestrates. When your inner state aligns with truth, you start to notice how reality arranges itself with precision. Doors open, messages arrive, paths clear not because you forced it, but because you got in tune with the source behind the surface. Listen to the whispers of your intuition, and you'll be guided toward your highest destiny. And here's the shift. Once you understand that the universe is mental and that all minds live within the one mind, separation dissolves, compassion deepens, judgment fades. You stop trying to dominate the world and begin learning how to collaborate with it. Every thought becomes sacred, every action intentional, because you're no longer moving through a dead universe of things. You're dancing with a living intelligence that knows you intimately because it is you. This is what the Kybalion means when it says, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." It is not philosophy, it is orientation. Once you know you are part of the universal mind, you don't need to fight for your place. You already have it. You don't need to prove your worth. You are made of the same essence that makes the stars. From this place, life becomes less about striving and more about tuning, less about seeking and more about remembering. You don't need to chase power. You only need to stop forgetting it. The universal mind never left you, you just stopped listening. But now you hear it again, in the quiet, in the stillness between thoughts, in the invisible current that carries everything forward. And once you feel it, even once, you know the truth. You were never separate. You were never small. You are not just part of the story, you are part of the source. You live in a world designed to pull your attention in every direction but inward. It floods your senses with noise, your mind with worry, your time with obligations. It gives you 1,000 things to chase and 1,000,000 reasons to feel not enough. And this isn't accidental, it's deliberate. Because the more distracted you are, the less likely you are to realize the truth, that the power you've been searching for has been inside you all along. The system thrives on your forgetfulness. It benefits when you equate productivity with purpose, fame with worth, performance with value. It wants you busy, exhausted, and disoriented, because a person who's always reaching outward is easier to predict, easier to please, and easier to control. But the moment you begin to turn inward to question, to observe, to feel, you start stepping out of their game. You stop being a pawn and start becoming a participant in your own unfolding. This isn't about rebellion for the sake of drama. It's about clarity. It's about knowing that when your thoughts are constantly hijacked by fear, comparison, or urgency, your vibration collapses. You forget your source. You hand your creative power to systems that do not serve you. And they'll gladly use it to sell you back the illusion of freedom in 10,000 different packages, none of which will ever satisfy because they can't. They were never meant to. The real revolution begins when you reclaim your attention, when you choose to sit in silence instead of scrolling, when you catch yourself reacting to a narrative you didn't author, when you ask, whose voice is this in my head and do I believe it? Awareness is the sharpest blade you own. Once you start seeing the programming, you begin to write your own. You were never meant to numb your intuition with entertainment. You were never meant to drown your purpose in distractions dressed as productivity. You were meant to remember, to wake up to the fact that the world out there is shaped by the world in here, that you're not powerless, you're programmable. And if you can be programmed, you can also be deprogrammed, rewritten, realigned. But that takes presence, it takes effort. And most of all, it takes the decision to stop playing someone else's game. This is where hermetic wisdom becomes more than knowledge, it becomes action. You can't just read about frequency, you have to curate your emotional state. You can't just know that thought shapes reality, you have to think on purpose. You can't just study the universal mind, you have to dialogue with it every day through intention, through awareness, through stillness, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but deliberately. And when you do this, life changes. Not all at once, but steadily. The wrong people start fading. The right ones show up unexpectedly. Opportunities align without forcing. Obstacles shift without effort. Not because magic is happening, but because you finally are. And here's what most will never tell you. The universe doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be in tune. When you start living from coherence instead of chaos, your life begins to reflect it. You become magnetic, not because you're special, but because you're aligned. There's a huge difference. One is ego, the other is truth. And the more you live from this truth, the less the world can bait you into forgetting. You become harder to manipulate, harder to distract, harder to sell to. You don't need to perform your worth because you've remembered it. You no longer need permission to be who you are. The world isn't going to slow down to make space for your awakening. You have to claim it. You have to pull your attention back, moment by moment, from the 1,000 illusions trying to own it. Because attention is currency. It's energy. It's how you vote for the reality you want to live in. And right now, you've never had more reason or more power to start spending it wisely. There comes a moment when you stop looking for the answer out there and realize you've been carrying it all along. Not in your thoughts, not even in your beliefs, but in your awareness. Beneath all the noise, beneath the layers of conditioning and distraction, there is a stillness. And from that stillness comes remembering. That's the real gift of the Kybalion. It doesn't give you something new. It helps you remember what was never lost. You were not born to be a passive observer in a world of matter. You were born as a current in the great stream of consciousness, a frequency of the universal mind, not separate, not lower, not a mistake. You are the principle in action, the law walking, the vibration expressed, the polarity learning to balance itself, the student and the teacher contained in one form. And the more you wake up to this, the more life begins to echo back what you've always known deep down. You were never powerless. The systems you were born into did their job. They dulled your senses. They disconnected you from inner wisdom. They made you question your worth and chase external validation. But none of that erased your truth. It just distracted you from it. And now, as you peel back each layer, you find that nothing essential was ever taken, only forgotten. And forgetting, as it turns out. So, if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this. You are far more powerful, more connected, and more capable than you've ever been led to believe. The universe isn't some cold, indifferent machine, but a living, breathing mind that you are an integral part of. It's time to reclaim your awareness, tune into the frequencies that resonate with your highest self, and consciously create the reality you desire. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. What resonated with you the most? Do you have any questions about the principles we've discussed? Leave a comment below and let's continue this conversation. And if you found this helpful and want to dive deeper into these concepts, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future explorations of consciousness, reality, and the power within you. Thanks for watching.